Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson and Andrew Bone. Big day for Alabama. You got a scrimmage coming up later on. You got Nick Saban, so definitely stay with BamaInsider.com. Today, Tim Keenan will make his college announcement here with Andrew Bone to talk about Tim Keenan and kind of get some backstory on a local product out of the state of Alabama. Bone, how you doing this morning?
Doing great, Kyle. How are you?
I'm doing great. And, as we look to Tim Keenan, who will make his college announcement at 10 a.m. this morning. Can you tell us what type of prospect he is and kind of the backstory of his recruitment process?
Well, the backstory on his recruitment process is he kind of started his recruitment very early in his high school career. Offers started coming in when he was just a true freshman. I think it was after his sophomore year. Attended Alabama's camp when he earned an offer from the Crimson Tide, and really has been recruited by Alabama ever since. Has a ton of offers. Really narrowed it down to a top 5 with Alabama, LSU, Georgia Tech, and UAB. I think he just kind of tossed UAB in there, just show some love to the local school. Never really thought he was going to end up going there, but I always felt like it was going to come down to Alabama and Georgia with him here recently. And in my opinion, I think he ends up committing to Alabama. So we'll find out here. I guess in less than 10 minutes where he's going to go, but I think Alabama's in good shape with him.
Now, when we look at local products, Nick Saban does such a great job taking care of his own backyard. Talk about kind of the guys that Alabama has already added on to this class. I know there's 3 prospects. It could be Tim Keenan, could be the 4th today if he does commit to Alabama. Kind of talk about the prospects that Alabama already has on board from the state of Alabama.
Yeah, it's kind of a low number of in-state guys this year with 19 commitments overall. Alabama only has 3 in-state commitments right now. And Anquan Barnes, Anquan was actually the first in-state commitment for Alabama. Deontay Lawson was the first in-state guy for Alabama. Anquan Barnes was second, and then Ian Jackson. Deontay Lawson committed back in December. It was almost kind of like a surprise commitment at the moment, but has been very solid ever since and had a tremendous game against UMS right on Friday night. I think he's probably one of the most underrated recruits in Alabama's class right now. And then, Anquan Barnes, 6'5", 310 pounds, plays on both sides of the football, defensive line and offensive line. If Alabama only ends up with 4 offensive linemen in this class, I could potentially see Barnes making a transition to the offensive line. So we'll have to kind of pay close attention to that moving forward. And then Ian Jackson from Prattville High School, committed to Alabama in late May. Outstanding linebacker prospect. Think he's extremely talented kid. Has played multiple positions on the defense side of the ball. Has played inside, has played out, has also played a little bit of defensive back. So extremely talented athlete. But 3 very good in-state prospects, and Alabama's hoping to get a 4th here in just a few moments.
All right. And thank you very much, Bombs. You're always a strong contributor on our show. Definitely, always contributing to the recruiting aspect as well as the team aspects. So we sincerely appreciate that. Tim Keenan about to make his college announcement at 10 a.m. this morning. Big day for the Alabama Crimson Tide. You'll get Nick Saban later on today talking about Alabama's first scrimmage of the 2020 fall training camp season. You also get some more B-roll. And thank you so much. Now is a great time to hit that thumbs up button. We really appreciate that. If you can't, super chat, just a thumbs up and being able to subscribe certainly helps our channel grow and get out to other members on, that follow Alabama football. And just like the Dorito bag says, subscribe. So one of my favorite users, by the way. So Tim Keenan about to make his college announcement here at 10 a.m. Central Time. Bone, we're here to talk about Tim Keenan before he makes his announcement. Big boy, 6'2", 325 pounds. That might be a little bit undersized. This dude is a big boy. How important is it for Alabama to lock up these big defensive tackles?
Well, you can never have enough good defensive linemen. There was kind of a time period a few years back when Alabama missed on some interior defensive linemen, and I felt like when Alabama was having just so much success on the defensive line, defensive front, they were rotating so many guys in. A few years ago they were rotating 8, 9, 10 guys in on the defensive front, and maybe 2 years ago we only saw about 4 or 5 defensive linemen. So having quality in depth is very important on the defensive front. And, I think Alabama's been able to do that the last few recruiting cycles, and they're continuing to do that in this recruiting cycle. Already having, a commitment from Anquin Barnes, getting a humongous commitment from Damon Payne a few weeks ago. And then if they are able to get Tim Keenan today, just continues to build on that depth.
All right, we're here with Andrew Bone. We're waiting on Tim Keenan, who will announce at 10 a.m. Central Time. Bone, this class, and when we look at this class overall, let me get that on the screen real quick. If Keenan does jump on today, that'll be 20 commitments for this class of 2021. As we've talked about, they're highly rated. I think Ohio State just jumped them back for the number 1 spot, as you had projected when Alabama took over that spot. Looking at this class, what are the remaining needs? Looking at the picture, and everyone always talks about the number. How many can Alabama take in this class? You've kind of always estimate at 27. I followed the coverage enough to know that's kind of the number you like to throw out. But looking at the remaining needs, what do you think about this particular class and where they need to go in terms of getting other prospects on board to fill up this class of 2021?
Yeah, I think, in terms of overall needs, I definitely think, adding another, or not adding another, but adding one tight end is going to be very important to Alabama. That's certainly a position that they're hoping to fill, maybe here pretty soon. Staying on the offensive side of the ball. I do think quarterback and, quarterback's done, running back. They may not take a running back in this class. I know that, there's a lot of buzz about Kamara Wheaton here recently with him naming his top 3 of Alabama, LSU, and Oklahoma. I just don't see him in Alabama's class. I know some people think that maybe there's a chance. I just don't see that at all. I think he ends up at Oklahoma, maybe LSU, but I think Oklahoma's in very strong position. Wide receiver wise, Alabama's still trying to add at least one more guy. Brian Thomas, certainly a key target there. And like I said, tight end, very important. Offensive lines, pretty interesting because they have 4 very quality, very elite offensive linemen committed right now. I think they could potentially be finished at offensive line. Now, there's some other targets who are out there, some guys that they would still take. But I think, as I posted on the Bama Insider recruiting board earlier today, I think anybody else is just gravy right now. I think they've got 4 guys that, I think they went into the recruiting cycle saying, all right, we have to get 4 offensive linemen. They got 4 offensive linemen. Now, I think anything else is just extra. So maybe they get another offensive lineman, maybe they don't. But, looking on the defensive side of the ball, defensive, end, very important. Alabama has 1 defensive end commitment right now in Monkel Goodwine. There's still several guys who are out there that they're heavily recruiting. I think they get at least 2 more, at least try to get 2 more defensive ends in this class. Linebacker wise, still heavily recruiting Xavier Sorey. And then, defensive back wise, still trying to get at least 1 more guy. It could be a situation where they get 2, but it's got to be the right 2. If they can get 2 very elite guys, I think they would take 6 defensive backs overall, but I think they definitely want to get at least 1 more defensive back in this class.
We're here with Andrew Bone of BamaInsider.com. My name is Kyle Henderson. Please hit the thumbs up button and please subscribe to our channel. Got tons of Alabama Crimson Tide coverage coming your way. Throughout, the entire football season, we got tons of footage from Alabama's practice that I break down, provide some commentary. Andrew does a great job, talking about recruiting. We have our recruiting show each Tuesday night. I Talk Team on Wednesday. We appreciate everyone being here. So right now what we're doing is a little preview before Tim Keenan makes his college announcement. Andrew has a forecast in for Keenan to Alabama, so we'll just wait till 10 a.m. And I'm going to let Andrew Bone drop out real quick, take care of what he needs to do for that 10 a.m. commitment, and then we'll bring him back on. So I'll take over, and Bone will catch up with you here in just a minute. So I'm going to go to a quick solo layout. So just a few more minutes, and Tim Keenan will make his college announcement. And I think when we look at this entire class of 2021, I really think that Alabama has done such a great job in a year that's been very difficult for recruiting for, I think, all programs. Now, this has changed slightly as Ohio State is now up in the rankings. But just to give you an idea of what Alabama has done, I think I can actually pull up a fresh look at the recruiting rankings. Just give me 1 second. And just to further elaborate on the job that Nick Saban has done and his coaching staff during a time where you couldn't have any commits on or prospects on campus. And I think this is one year, as I always talk about, where the Bama factor sells itself. So looking at the rankings right now, and this is updated. So as you see, Ohio State, and as Andrew said, Ohio State and Alabama are going to flip flop as we continue to push towards National Signing Day. Both of the teams rather, have 19 committed prospects. Ohio State has 2 5-stars, 14 4-star commitments, and 2 3-star prospects. Now, Alabama, second right now in the Rivals.com team rankings, has 19 total commitments, 1 5-star, that's Tommy Brockemeyer, and 14 4-stars. I haven't done this in quite a little bit, but I like to always sort by star rating average because I think that gives you a better understanding of where the teams are recruiting. And it seems like Georgia now has climbed to that top spot when you look at star rating average. So it looks like Georgia at the top spot with 3.9, then Ohio State with 3.89, and then Alabama 3.84, and LSU and Clemson rounding out those next 2 spots. So Saban's done a fantastic job. And today, if they get Tim Keenan on board, getting those in-state guys, very, very important. Tim Keenan about to make his announcement here pretty soon on, and we will bring that to you as soon as we can on BamaInsider.com. Thank you so much, Brandon, for the super chat. We appreciate it. We're going to bring Andrew Bone back in just a minute after Tim Keenan makes his official announcement. And we will get right back to you. Brandon asks, in your opinion, who is the most exciting recruit of this class that we've got on board so far? Well, I think, at least for me, and I'll definitely ask Andrew that when he gets back on board and when we kind of talk about everything. You could look at the 5-star ratings and kind of be excited about that. I'm kind of looking at maybe one of these wide receivers like a Christian Leary, because I think with a player like Christian Leary, I look at who's leaving next year, right? And I think you obviously know that Jalen Waddle is a guy that's going to leave. So Christian Leary could be that additional guy that could provide that excitement that Alabama needs. Somebody who they can really utilize in several different ways, get the football to. I mean, this guy is one of the fastest players in the entire country. So I certainly think that he's a guy that I'm really looking forward to. Kind of when I look at the rest of the class, I guess on the defensive side of the ball, we continue to hear that Deontay Lawson is very underrated, and a guy from the state of Alabama who could really make a push, early in his career to get some playing time. So maybe on the offensive side, I'll go with Christian Leary, and then on the defensive side, just as Andrew was talking about, maybe a guy like Deontay Lawson. But of course, it's always good to see the big boys up there, and appreciate you joining us today. We're waiting on Tim Keenan's announcement, and that should drop in right now. So that has dropped, and we got breaking news, and we will bring that in as Tim Keenan has just announced that he has committed to Alabama. We'll bring Andrew Bone in just a second, but big pickup for Alabama. Bone, give me a thumbs up when you're ready to go after you've taken care of your work, and we'll get going. So Tim Keenan has announced a big pickup for Alabama. This is the 20th commitment in the class of 2021. Local product. Andrew has put in a forecast before. There's a big boy, 6'2", 235 pounds, 335 pounds, 325. It says on his Rivals profile, but I think he could be like 350. And we have some highlights of him that we'll show you in just a minute. Really big time prospect out of the Birmingham area, and is a 4th in-state commit to Alabama. So there you go. Tim Keenan on board. Give a thumbs up in the comment box for Tim Keenan. This is a good addition to this class, and we'll get Andrew Bone on in just a second to talk about what it means with Tim Keenan jumping on board and who could potentially be next in this class. So big pickup for Alabama today. And thank you for joining us for our live coverage. We'll bring on Andrew Bone in just a second. Looks like Bone's ready to go. And we are back with Andrew Bone. And Bone, as we talk about, Tim Keenan jumping on board, what does it mean with Keenan jumping on board the Crimson Tide?
Well, it's a big commitment. It gives Alabama 20 commitments in this recruiting class. Their 3rd defensive lineman. Of course, my yard guy's right outside my office window going right now, so I don't know if y'all can hear that or not.
You're good.
But perfect timing on our end. But yeah, I mean, Alabama's third interior defensive line commitment in this recruiting class, joining Anquin Barnes and Damon Payne. And as I alluded to earlier, we could potentially see Anquin Barnes possibly making a switch over to offensive lines. Has played offensive line, but the last couple of years, and could potentially move over. So this could be Alabama's only their second interior defensive line commitment this year if Anquin Barnes ends up moving. But big commitment. He's a big interior defensive lineman. Kind of a run stuffer. He's kind of your old school interior defensive lineman. I mean, just a massive human being. Gonna command double teams, and going to be pretty hard to move. So I certainly believe Alabama got a great pickup today in Tim Keenan.
All right. Those highlights, we have to check out those highlights again, because there's a couple of the highlights I'm like worried about the kids that he's tackling, because it was like there was a quarterback on there. My goodness. And I know his rival's profile says 325 pounds, but he might be 350 right now. I mean, he's probably going to have to drop some weight as he gets to Alabama. But I mean, the dude has some great, look at this play right here. My goodness, what happened to the quarterback on that, right? Talk about a reverse pancake. Bone, you like this pickup overall? You think it's a good fit for this class of 2021?
Yeah, I do. I mean, he's a great in-state prospect. He's been recruited for the last couple of years by Alabama. He's a guy that's continues to work hard. I mean, he's always trying to get better, always trying to go. He goes to didn't go to camps this spring or this summer, but throughout his high school career, ever since he was a freshman, he's been going to just every single camp he's been can get to, just trying to get better, trying to improve. He's got great skills on the defensive line. Now he is a big boy. I mean, he's north of 330 pounds, so I think he probably needs to slim down just a little bit. But he's an ox. He's very strong, very powerful, and somebody who's a great leader out on the field as well.
All right, Bone. I'm going to pull up the defensive prospects that Alabama has added to this class. We'll add Tim Keenan in just a second. As you're looking at this defensive list, Andrew, do you like what you see, what Alabama's been able to add to the class of 2021 overall?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you look, top to bottom, it's been outstanding. On the defensive front, the linebacker position, extremely loaded. Defensive back wise, very talented. I think, defensive back wise, there's some very underrated guys. You got 3 defensive backs who are rated 3 stars. I think all those guys are 4-star caliber players at least. I think with Devontae Smith, I think he's got a chance to really make a big move this fall. Josh Hemholt, who covers the Midwest region, I know he's very excited about seeing him play this year. I think that's that was kind of the holdup in his ranking. Josh knew that he was going to go have a chance to see him play this fall, so he decided to wait a little bit longer instead of moving him up in the last rankings update. Going to properly evaluate him and then go from there. And then with Kadarius Callaway, another guy that we could see potentially moving up in the rankings. Chad Simmons, who covers the Southeast, is actually going to see him play on September the 18th. Now, Kadarius Callaway is a guy who's an outstanding athlete on both sides of the ball, had almost 1,000 yards receiving on offense, had 11 interceptions on defense last year. So a very talented athlete. And then Kyrie Jackson, who I think is probably one of the best overall junior college players in the country. Junior college players, for some reason or another, I guess they don't, get properly ranked until, the very end. And, it may be tough this year for junior college players because, there's not going to be a junior college season. And, those guys aren't going to be evaluated. So I don't know how high he's going to move up without being seen. But he certainly, if I was rating Kyrie Jackson, he would certainly be one of the top, not just cornerbacks, but overall players in the junior college rankings. So I think Alabama's defensive class overall, extremely talented, extremely good, and I think they should be very excited.
All right, so just in that Tim Keenan has committed to the Alabama Crimson Tide, 20th commitment to the class of 2021 here with Andrew Bone to provide some instant analysis. Bone, when we look at kind of the who's next, everybody wants to know, okay, we got Tim Keenan on board. Who is next? Give me some guys that Alabama fans should definitely keep watch as we move, closer to the month of September and into this football season, because, now with 20 prospects on board, it's getting tight and Alabama can only take so many.
Well, there are some guys that I feel like are close to making decisions, not necessarily in favor of Alabama. William Griffin Parker, offensive lineman out of Nashville, is going to be announcing his decision next Friday. So that's something to watch. I do think it came down to Alabama and Tennessee. A couple days ago, I was thinking it was going to be Alabama, but starting to lean more towards Tennessee at this time. I think Tennessee's done a great job recruiting him, and actually just flipped my prediction on him from Alabama to Tennessee. We know JaQuincy McKinstry probably very close to announcing a decision as well. Unfortunately for Alabama fans, I've also put in a prediction for elsewhere, predicted him to Auburn. So we'll see what happens. I know there's some Alabama fans who are still arguing with me about that because they feel like he's going to end up going to Alabama, and he might. I mean, I think Alabama's still, in the race, but as of right now, I think Auburn's in pretty good position. But in terms of who's going to commit next to Alabama, a couple guys that I'm watching closely, are tight ends. I think Robbie Oots, tight end out of Rock Hill, South Carolina, could be very close to making a decision. When we recently spoke with him, he said the earliest he was probably going to commit was sometime in September. Well, we're about here. So we'll see if he makes a decision here pretty soon. I did an interview the other day with Mizzou tight end commitment Ryan Hosterkamp. Seems very, very interested in Alabama. Now, I think if Robbie Oots ends up committing, then that's going to eliminate Ryan Hosterkamp. But that's somebody to keep an eye on, because I think Alabama will end up taking one of those tight ends in this class. Now, there's another tight end out there, Jalen Sheed, out of Olive Branch, Mississippi, who we have talked about, who's going to be announcing his commitment on Sunday. So tomorrow, he's going to announce his commitment tomorrow. I actually think he's going to commit to LSU. That's my prediction as of right now. He's going to commit to LSU. So we'll see what happens there tomorrow. But, we're going to continue to watch these tight ends in Robbie Oots and Ryan Hosterkamp. And then, there's really nobody else out there right now that we feel like is going to make a decision sometime soon. Most of these guys that Alabama's still heavily recruiting, offensive line, or excuse me, not offensive line wise, wide receiver wise. Brian Thomas, I don't think he's going to make a commitment anytime soon. I think he wants to wait a little bit longer before making a commitment. Defensive line, obviously we've talked about all these defensive end targets out there. Tamise Adelie, Shamar Turner, Chambry Jackson, all those guys, seem like they're going to wait a little bit longer. The same with linebacker Xavier Sori and defensive back Terrion Arnold. And most of those guys plan on waiting, a few more months at least before they make a decision. So, not a lot of commitments to potential commitments to watch, but definitely a few.
All right, Bone. If you just missed it, and if you're just joining us, Tim Keenan has committed to Alabama. We got tons of coverage right now on BamaInsider.com. Definitely go check it out. Alabama will hold its first scrimmage of the 2020 fall training camp. So tons of coverage coming your way. You'll also get Nick Saban later on today as well. So a lot of coverage on BamaInsider.com. Remember, the free promo code is simply Roll Tide at checkout. Bone, before we let you go, before we let everybody go back and read all the coverage at BamaInsider.com, I want to talk about the recruiting rankings real quick. We talked about Alabama jumped up to that top spot. Looks like they're back at the top spot now after landing Tim Keenan. So they're back at number one. So that's good news. Alabama, Ohio State going to continue to flip, but right now Alabama at the number one spot. Talk about, the battles between Alabama, Ohio State as we continue to inch forward to National Signing Day.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a very intense recruiting battle between the two schools for number one overall. It's going to go back and forth, and you never know, who may commit elsewhere, who may end up, really competing with Alabama and Ohio State in the end. But there's certain, both schools are still trying to add more players. I mean, this is not it for either one of the recruiting classes. So still a long way to go. I mean, Ohio State, certainly feels confident, about a few more 5-star guys that they're recruiting. But Alabama, could potentially, have a few more 5-stars, in its current class. There's, 3 or 4 guys right now who could easily be 5-stars by signing day. So it's going to be very interesting, kind of see how the final rankings unfold and, how it goes the rest of the way. But, they're certainly having some key recruiting value. Yeah, you keep zooming in on me. I'm like, damn. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's going to flip flop. Probably many times. I wouldn't really worry too much about, who's number one, who's number two right now, because it's going to just keep going back and forth. But I certainly believe that it's going to be a fun ride to signing day.
All right, Bone. I'll let you take this one with Brandon Freeman. I'm curious how long you and Mr. Bone have been doing BamaInsider.com together. You guys make a great team with what I've seen so far.
Man, how long has it been? 3 years?
Yeah, so I'll give you guys, so now you guys, perfect time to go back to BamaInsider.com, get all the coverage on Tim Keenan. Before we close out, quick backstory on Andrew Bone and kind of BamaInsider.com. So took over the website in 2017, had to make sure that Andrew Bone was kept on staff. And, you know, he is obviously the best in the business. So I think over time, Andrew and I, we've worked together since 2017, known each other before that just a little bit. And, really built up a good continuity within each other. I think we have a really good rhythm, especially, you know, on the team and recruiting side. I think you have to have that good cohesiveness. And I think when you look at our YouTube channel overall, it's certainly grown because during this time, we've been able to provide a little bit of a personality towards, you know, our recruiting, whereas you're just used to getting your articles, and that's fine. But I think, you know, we've definitely built a good cohesiveness, and we're always working together, and Bone's pretty easy to work with, pretty laid back guy. So I hope that
yeah, it's been a fun ride so far. We're gonna keep on going and continue to get better.
All right, guys. Well, everybody go back to BamaInsider.com right now. Hit the thumbs up button before you guys leave. Thank you very much. Tim Keenan is on board. Who's next? You can find all that information at BamaInsider.com. 20 commits, Alabama back on top of the recruiting rankings. He's Andrew Bone. I'm Kyle Henderson. Thank you very much for joining us today. Congratulations to Tim Keenan on a great commitment, and we'll catch you soon back at BamaInsider.com. Stay tuned for that Nick Saban press conference dropping around probably 4 p.m. Central Time. See you soon.